This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. I love that open. All about taking personal responsibility. It's you. It's me. It's no one else. You are responsible. You're responsible for every damn thing. And if you spend a certain significant part of your life blaming other people, when you finally wake up, you will just realize how much time you wasted with the blame game. Today, I want to talk a little basketball because there's some lessons in this basketball lesson that apply to every endeavor, even trading. I've long been a fan of the Boston Celtics. Back to watching them in the early to mid 80s with Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Dennis Johnson, and Danny Ainge. My memory, though, is that front line of Bird, McHale, and Parrish. Three really big guys. 6'9", 6'11", 7 foot tall, just a massive front line. Not guys that played like Shaq, but guys that had really great skills. They had every move in the paint you could imagine, and Bird, of course, could shoot like crazy. I'm still heartbroken to this day for what happened in the spring of 1986, right after the Celtics had won the NBA World Championship. By fortune, by good luck, they had the pick in the draft to select Len Bias from Maryland. I don't know what Len Bias would have become, but he sure looked like a cross between Dominique Wilkins and Michael Jordan. He was amazing. And of course, he died almost immediately from a cocaine overdose. I've seen this written many places, but many men who came of age during that time never touched cocaine because of Len Bias' death. I'm one of them. I'm not trying to be holier than thou, but when the guy gets selected by the Celtics, who have just won the world championship, and he's going to make an absolute fortune, and he kills himself off coke, that's enough to wake any 17-year-old guy up and say, you know what, I'm not going there. So I've always loved the Celtics. And now the story with the Celtics has gotten really interesting in 2016. They have a great young coach named Brad Stevens. Many of you probably recall in the last bunch of years, he took Butler. I mean, who the hell is Butler? Took Butler to the NCAA championship game twice. Didn't win, but for a young coach coming from nowhere with not exactly Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina talent, pretty damn amazing. And all these years later, Danny Ainge, who was on those 1980 Celtics teams, is the GM of the Boston Celtics. He hired Brad Stevens. I would love to get Ainge on this show to talk about that hire and his thinking, because he really was seeing something that other people were not seeing. He took a gamble on this young college coach. Yes, with immense quick success, 2 championship games, but to bring him into the NBA, boy, that's quite different. 3 years into it, Brad Stevens' team will have a winning record, will make the playoffs this year, and just recently stopped the Golden State Warriors' home winning streak at 54. A hell of an accomplishment. Now, all that set up is to try and unpack some of the lessons that we can all learn from this young basketball coach, Brad Stevens. One of the great things about Brad Stevens, and it's not unique to Brad Stevens, obviously Moneyball, etc., but Brad Stevens is a quant. He likes numbers. He's thinking in terms of probabilities, possibilities. He's thinking numbers all the time. This is a major, major, major element to his initial NBA success. Let me play a clip from the Vertical podcast with Chris Mannix, where Brad Stevens gets into those numbers.
You incorporated statistical analysis in college. Have you found NBA players to be as receptive as college players would be?
For sure. Yeah, the best of the best want to be coached, and the best of the best want to know any little tidbit that can give them a little bit of an advantage. Yeah, I don't think there's any question about it. Not everybody is going to respond to a numbers-centric, speech, right? It may not be how somebody's wired, but everybody wants to know, hey, we're doing it this way to take away what they do best. Here's why we've determined this is what they do best. And, everybody wants to do that because they want to know, how are we going to guard this guy? Or how are we going to best attack this team based not only on the eye test from watching film, but also based on what the numbers are telling you, because they know that, the players in this league, they're smart. They know that they need those advantages against the best of the best.
What I love about that is the influence when young coaches that are coaching the kids at the kid level, they hear that and they want to change. They want to find out what Brad Stevens means by the numbers. They want to get into those details, and I guarantee you they already are. I have a friend who's coached a high school baseball team for the last 20 years. He's won several state championships. He's been nationally ranked. They look at the statistics big time. Now think about investing. Here you have a sport, basketball. Not everybody that plays basketball or coaches basketball is statistically brilliant. But you know damn well that everybody knows they have to go down that rabbit hole when they hear Brad Stevens talking like that. But look at investing. Investing is completely the opposite. Yes, we can find the David Hardings of the world, the Paul Mulvaney's of the world, the Bill Dunns of the world to offer wisdom and to tell everyone like it is. But they are up against an absolute massive, massive Wall Street system that is built on fees, mutual fund fees. And those guys could give a shit less about doing things the right way. They just want to take your money. I want to take your money too. I want to be paid. I'm a capitalist. I want to give you something of value and have you give me something back. Guess what? A buy and hold mutual fund, long only, is not value. That's a scam pulled over on people that don't know better. Now, of course, they're personally responsible for keeping their brain in a fog, keeping their brain in paralysis. I'm not giving them an excuse. But that Wall Street machine is pretty insidious. So I love listening to someone like Brad Stevens so calmly just talk about numbers. He sounds like an academic professor, right? He almost sounds like some of the traders that I've had on my podcast. Very calm. Think through all the possibilities, know the probabilities, and be ready. And that leads to my second clip that I want to play from the Vertical podcast.
Is coaching just coaching? I mean, when you get out there, is it the same feeling you had when you were at Butler, or is it, I know you've got better players that you're going up against, but when you step out there on the floor into that coach's box, is it the same feeling for you, or is there a different feeling being on an NBA sideline?
Oh, I think the longer I've been in it, all the way from my time as an assistant till now, this is going to sound sad, but the more like a job it has become, right? You take the emotions out of it. You have a job to do. You prepare for the game. You try to do your best to be as good as you can be in the game. And sometimes you have to adjust a lot on the fly, and sometimes you have to tweak very little on the fly. But you're just prepared for the next game. And even during the game, for me, what I've kind of found myself is like at the end of games, whatever the case may be, I'm thinking about okay, the next practice, what do I say in the locker room so that we can have a good next practice? What do I say in our next meeting? You know, how does this affect our next meeting? How does this outcome affect our mindset, et cetera, et cetera? You're just always thinking about what's next. The best part about coaching to me, other than the relationships and the people, is the challenge of the team dynamic and, you know, how many human nature challenges there are out there when adversity or success hits.
Now, what I love about that, process versus outcome. Brad Stevens is not imagining during the course of the game the final result. He is looking at what process are we taking over the course of the game to get to the end. And I mentioned that Golden State win, stopping their long winning streak at home. And that ESPN article, I want to quote, "By the time Stevens emerged to talk with the media, he was back to his even-keeled self. He expressed appreciation for the way his team bounced back from Thursday's loss and withstood Golden State's charges, but asked if the magnitude of the opponent suggested any more progress than usual. Stevens closed his media session by offering, quote, "Progress is not in the result. The progress was in the poise," end quote. The progress was in the poise. That's an absolutely fantastic book title. The progress was in the poise. Process versus outcome. Adding to that great excerpt about poise, the process of poise, I'd like to read a few answers from Brad Stevens in an interview that he gave. Is your calm demeanor a conscious part of your coaching philosophy? My philosophy is simply that you do 99% of your work behind the scenes, and when the game comes around, hopefully you can perform with a feeling of being well prepared. That's all I can do. I want my guys confident. I don't look at myself as an overly calm person. Would you say your temperament is misperceived? Yes, I would. I'm not going to do cartwheels on the baseline very often. Hopefully I won't lose my mind very often. You're trying to stay measured, not necessarily to live up to that billing. It's more about thinking about the next play. Let me interject here on this short-term trading. All of you out there that want to be day traders, give me a break. You're really not into day trading because you think it's the best way to make money. You're into day trading because you want some kind of a thrill. You want excitement. So separate the two. At least acknowledge that you're into gambling. But if you really want to be a day trader, hey man, raise $5-10 million, go start a high-frequency trading shop. But you're not going to be a day trader and compete with high-frequency operations sitting in front of a 10-screen bank in your bedroom. Ain't happening. Back to Brad Stevens. How is the style of play at the highest level evolving? He means the NBA. The game has become one more of skill and speed than size, which is what it used to be. Some of the best teams in the league, like the Pacers, do have that traditional size, whereas other great teams have skilled size, guys who are really lean, really skilled, and really agile, and their length makes up for any lack of weight. What's the role of diet in the basketball lifestyle? Nutrition and sleep are two of the most underrated things, especially with younger kids. They're crucial not only for performing in athletics, but also for performing in school and being at your best and maximizing yourself in all you do. Okay, that sounds cliche, but how many of you out there are messed up on sleep, not exercising? Give me a break. You can't think the best that you want to be if you're fat and you have no sleep. Sorry to be so blunt. Actually, you know what? I'm not sorry to be so blunt. You can't be your best if you're fat and out of shape and have no sleep. Period. Moving on. If I'm a player and I'm not hitting my shots, do you bench me or leave me in to work it out? Brad Stevens says, production is the bottom line. If the team, not necessarily you, statistically produces when you're on the court, then you're going to win. But you want to build confidence in your players. As a coach, you have to have a short-term memory when it comes to shooting. Let it fly and move on. A really amazing point what he says there. Your team needs to statistically produce when you're on the court. Maybe you don't score at all, but maybe you bring something else, the intangible. When you're on the court, the overall team gets better. Maybe if you're swapped out and they put in the guy with the big rep who can score at will but has to hog the ball, then the team play goes down. But this can be measured. This is statistical. Again, Moneyball. No one told me when I played baseball growing up how important a walk was. In the grand scheme of the team winning, you opening up the inning with a walk versus getting a single is the same damn result for the team. You're on first base. When you start to think statistically, this all becomes much, much more important. Of course, it goes without saying, across my podcast, you can find the statistical thinkers if you want to apply this to trading. I just found this example with Brad Stevens fascinating because it's basketball. What do tyrannical basketball coaches get wrong? Brad Stevens says, there isn't a right style or a wrong style. I've known plenty of guys who are considered screamers and they get a lot out of their team and the players love them. The last question. So are fear and intimidation motivators? Stevens, not in the long run. I believe you're either intrinsically motivated or you're not. I believe you're either intrinsically motivated or you're not. Yes, I wanted to talk about the Celtics today. Yes, I wanted to talk about Brad Stevens today. And yes, I wanted to talk about basketball and statistical thinking today. But I saved that line for last. Because that line, whether you're interested in trading, basketball, statistics, I don't care. You are either intrinsically motivated or you're not. You can't blame anybody else. Oh, you can blame somebody and you can waste their time. You can waste your time. But it's all on you. Yeah, sure. Listen, I don't like when Wall Street does bullshit stuff. Like stuff people into buy and hold long only. I don't like it. I think it's manipulative. But guess what? You either know that you're being manipulated in the long run or you don't. If you stick in there, you're violating the rule. You're either intrinsically motivated or not to find out what life is, to find out what reality is. If you just trust the system, you will get what the system gives you. And if the system tells you to turn around, put both hands on the wall, and bend over, you're going to get what the system gives you. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash, or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.